Hey, this is Jason Moss of the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance, Manufacturing News Network. We're excited to have a great networking call today, and this call is from the foundation from our networking group that meets typically in Cobb County. And with that, I'll introduce our host, Miss Laura Matajewski. Laura, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jason, and good morning, everybody. It's great to see faces that I haven't seen in a while, and I look forward to continuing to kind of build back up the attendance, I think, for the group as we're all getting ourselves sorted out with the pandemic. It's been a crazy ride. It's going to continue to be a bit so, and we're hopeful, though, that we're going to get an opportunity soon enough to get back in person safely. Just waiting to get the blessing from our office building so that we could move forward with that, because I think networking is always best in person as we can do that. But in the meantime, we'll just have to do with this, and it's great to see everybody this morning. Today, we're going to go over and have Mark Eccles from Corporate Tax Incentives share some information today for us, the educational part of our session today. And then we're going to go around and just check in with everybody, see how you're doing. I'd really like to get some feedback if there's any thing that we can help you with in the group. As always, that's the part and parcel of what this networking group is we are here to share resources and find ways to make lucrative connections for each other. And then just kind of wrap things up with some things coming down the pipeline, and anything else that anybody else would like to share today, of course, we'll make sure to touch on that. So with that said, I'd like to just go around real briefly and have everybody just do a quick introduction of themselves, and then we'll kick into our educational session. So I'm going to start off with our presenter this morning, Mark Eccles.
Great, thanks you, Laura. Yeah, I'm going to be presenting. I'm with Corporate Tax Incentives. I know several of you, with one of my colleagues, Barry Devon. He's been coming out to the monthly meetings. We work with Laura and her firm a lot in these specialty tax credits and incentives. So I'm going to present this morning about some of these opportunities for your company or your clients. And
thank you, Mark. I'm going to move on to Mark next. Mark Stuckey.
Okay. Hey, good morning. I'm Mark Stuckey. I work for Advanced Protective Services. We have a full range security personnel that are available. We do investigations. We have unarmed guards, armed guards that are available. Some of our things that we work with are like apartment communities, jewelry stores, some large-scale manufacturing, warehousing. We're always interested in putting a bid in for security personnel.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mark. It's great to see you. I'm going to jump over to Mike McShane next.
Good morning. Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, folks, thank you for allowing me to sit in. I'm actually in the industrial real estate business, and the purpose of my calls is that we're always looking for ways to manage property better. And we've looked at energy spend as a big part of managing property, whether it be electricity, water, natural gas. So with the COVID-19 and cleaning, there's going to be other issues, like the gentleman with lighting. We've looked at quite a bit with the, I'll say, ultrasonic cleaning. Now, again, that's an electronic device that uses electricity. Stations to charge vehicles. These are all things that are part of a building that, if you think is part of the building and not part of your manufacturing process. And I think, folks like Mark Eccles could be very, very helpful in defining the two buckets of assets that you are involved with, whether you own or you lease. So these are the issues that we try to pay attention to in helping our clients who run and own industrial buildings.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here this morning, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Well, you're more welcome for the opportunity.
Excellent. I'm going to jump over to Rob Kling this morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Rob Kling with Tri-Merit here in Atlanta. Similar to what Mark Eccles is going to talk about, our firm does the exact same services. We work with CPA firms, doing the R&D tax credit work, cost segregation, 45L. So it'd be great to see Mark's presentation. Obviously, interested in seeing what else is out there, and certainly appreciate you guys having me on today.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Rob. Thanks for being here. Doug, you're up next.
Oh, good. I'm not muted. Hi, Laura. Sorry, I had another meeting, just jumped off of, but great to be here. I'm Doug Waterman with the Quality Consultant Group. I am a fractional quality management resource to help small to medium-sized manufacturers solve those, keep them awake in the middle of the night problems by finding simple solutions to their quality management system, their supply chain, their new product development processes, so that they can sleep better at night, but then that they can also put more money to their bottom line. So I'm Doug Waterman with the Quality Consultant Group.
Wonderful. Glad to have you back in, Doug. Good to see you.
It's good to be here. Thank you, Laura.
Wonderful.
Hi,
I'm going to
Jason.
jump over to my colleague, Elma, next.
Good morning. This is Elma, and I work with Laura at HLB Gross Collins. And as most of you know, we're a public accounting firm. We provide taxation and auditing and consulting services. And I work in the audit department, and I work closely with Laura on a lot of our manufacturing distribution clients and then some other clients.
Wonderful. Great to have you on today, Elma. Henry, you look like you are just chilling on the beach somewhere. Is this a real picture, or is this just a background thing?
Oh, the virtual stuff is really interesting, isn't it?
It sure is. I would like to be there if you're.
Yeah, me too. That's what I'm thinking. Zoom is-
Henry, I can barely hear you guys. Is it just me, or is Henry's audio light?
He is kind of muffled.
Okay.
let me see if I can turn it on as loud as I can. Hold on.
Okay. In the meantime, we'll just enjoy the waves right there.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Zoom has been giving me some heartburn. When I do it on my iPad, I've got a picture of me, but it's kind of weird. Zoom doesn't, on the iPad, the chat is difficult to copy. So,
Okay. Well, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, Henry. I know you just probably came shortly off of the Gwinnett chapter that you lead, but don't want to steal your thunder. Can you introduce yourself to the group and what you do?
it's my pleasure. So I'm Henry Levine, and I am related to Jason by being the Gwinnett chapter director. So just like Laura, and to support my habit of doing this networking stuff, I help folks with retirement planning solutions in the business and the individual level. And I like to say I help people put guardrails around their money so that that they don't lose it and they don't run out. So that's kind of what I do. And,
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, and I guess beside that, I just think that some of the stuff that Jason's going to talk about, if he hasn't done so already, is very exciting. So people shouldn't leave until he gives us all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Henry. Yeah, we are excited to hear what Jason has to share. So definitely don't skip out early today because we've got some good information, some exciting stuff to share. Right, Jason?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I think we hit on everybody this morning. Again, so happy to see you all here today. We're going to jump into our educational portion of this morning's event. And certainly, I'd love to get everybody's feedback as well, too. I'll follow up with you by email. As we're kind of working through this new environment here, we want to make sure that the group continues to have the main focus, which is bringing us all together to network and talk about what's going on in our lives and how we can benefit each other, trends and things that we're hearing that would be important for the rest to know about. But we also want to continue to share new and important information as well too. So today we've got educational presentation, but I'd love to get some feedback from everybody if there's other topics and things you'd like to do that maybe we can focus on a separate type of event for virtually, or you know, if we want to incorporate that in, just to give everybody a chance to share a little bit more about what they do on a deeper level. So I'll follow back up after today, but certainly before we end the call, if there's any feedback that anybody wants to share, I will give everybody a portion of time to do that so that we can make sure that we gather everybody's thoughts, because, you know, this is a constantly moving animal, right, Jason?
Yeah, no doubt. We're figuring it out every day, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that said, and I see John Harkinen in there. Hey, John.
Hey,
how are
how's it
you
going?
this morning?
Good, just fine, thanks. Had to get the computer rebooted. That's why, you know, sometimes it freezes up overnight and, oh crap, gotta hit the button.
I hear you. I hear you. You want to introduce yourself briefly, John? Then we're going to jump into a bit of an educational portion of the event, of the luncheon today.
Sure. What do I got? 30 seconds, 60 seconds?
It's 30. How about that? 60. If you want more, go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Yeah, John Harkinen, Util Auditors. We are specialists in operational cost containment and revenue recovery. In layman's terms, that is, we audit companies, utilities, and service contracts. We examine 16 areas of spend, and considering the environment or the economic climate we're in now, we're getting an incredible amount of attention from people because we're a real common sense way to identify revenue and operational cost reductions. Our audit results and deliverable comes on a contingency basis, so it literally doesn't cost our clients anything to identify ways to improve profitability and put immediate cash to the bottom line.
Wonderful. Oh, you did that so succinctly, John. I need to work on my elevator speech. You hit that one really well.
It's a cup of coffee. That's what it is.
There you go. There you go. A quick note to everybody, make sure you jump into the chat area, put your name, your phone number, your email address, and your business in there, a little bit of information if you'd like to, and then right click on those three little dots at the bottom and make sure you save the chat. Jason is recording today's session, so it'll be available later on, but we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get everybody else's contact information since we're not in person to share business cards. And I do highly encourage you, for anybody that you don't know, or maybe a face you haven't seen and talked to in a while, make a connection before next meeting and catch up with them, see what's going on, see how you can hopefully benefit each other. Okay? Well, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let Mark Eccles with CTI have the floor.
Great. Let me know if you could see my screen.
Good to go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, good morning, everybody. We just wanted to spend, about 15, 20 minutes going through some of the key credits and incentives that might be applicable to businesses in Georgia, and go through some of the new legislation for the CARES Act that might be applicable to you or your clients, and go through some of the kind of the oldies but goodies, some of the R&D tax credits. There's Georgia-specific training and job credits I wanted to go through with you, and then really be a resource for you to answer any questions you have through on this presentation this morning. So a little bit about me. I touched on it earlier. I've been doing tax credits and incentives for 25 years. I used to work for one of the big four accounting firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, for 17 years, and I joined corporate tax incentives about 7 years ago to originally head up their R&D tax credit practice. Now I'm more strategic partnership, so we'll work with firms like HLB Gross Collins with Laura and her team, hoping to provide specialty tax credits and incentives that they may not do themselves in-house. So we're kind of an arm to CPA firms, fractional CFO firms, consulting firms, and other kind of firms that have clients that can use tax credits and incentive services. So a little bit about our firm. You kind of only as good as what you do on a daily basis. So we focus on a few key areas. One is employment incentives. So if you're hiring employees, there can be both a federal and state hiring incentives. Research and development tax credits. Really, this is for any company that develops anything that's new or improved, be it a product, process, or software. And obviously manufacturing companies, I think 2/3 of the companies that claim the R&D credit are manufacturing. So it's a perfect industry for this type of incentive. Again, there's a federal and state component to that. Discretionary incentives. So if you're doing capital improvements, It could be, training expenditures. We'll talk a little bit about the Georgia training grant that companies can get. And then property incentives. So if you purchase buildings or make improvements in buildings, we can accelerate the depreciable life of that asset. It's called cost segregation studies that we do. And again, what we'll do is when we do a federal program, we'll look at all the state and local incentives as well. There's hundreds of them throughout the U.S. and it could be dozens depending on the state. So we'll look at that. A lot of them are driven by either capital improvements or investments or hiring and training. And we can look at all those programs via each state. So I did want to go through, there's a little bit of, recently last few months, there's been some COVID incentives. And I wanted to make sure to mention that to you guys in case it might be applicable to your business. One of them is the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. Hopefully you and your clients have taken advantage of that program. I think right now Congress is trying to make additional funds available, among other things, for businesses. I think it's the HEALS Act. And hopefully that gets passed soon. That'll generate a little bit more money. Under the old CARES Act, I think there was $300 billion of loans that the government was giving out. But that money went by pretty quickly. And so I know there's additional monies that need to be made for these companies, especially small businesses. So that's an option. There's a couple other things that was important in the CARES Act that came out. One is you can defer some of the employer payroll taxes. So normally the employee as well as the employer pays 6.2% withholding tax. So one of the things you can do is you can defer that payment, so you can spread it out over next year and the year after. So that's something to think about if, cash flow is always an issue. If you do have this 6.2% payroll tax that you're going to pay, you can defer that over the next 2 years, 50% each. So that's something to think about. And then the other area that's kind of important is there's an employee retention credit. So you can't take out a loan. So if you took out a PPP loan, you're not eligible, unfortunately, for the employee retention credit. But if you didn't take out a loan or couldn't get a loan, you might be eligible up to 50% of the employee's wages paid during this time period, during this pandemic. And the maximum credit's up to $5,000 per employee. Now, these are for businesses that are partially suspended or gross receipts reduced by 50%. So what we would do is look at 2019 revenue and compare it to 2020. And if that revenue went down more than 50%, then you might be eligible up to $5,000 per employee, and that can add up. I mean, you have 10 employees at $5,000, that's $50,000. So that's a potential opportunity as well for companies that are going through that. I'm sure, this is a living document, so I'm sure if this HEALS Act gets passed, there's going to be additional incentives in it. And we'll obviously update that on a separate call. We can send you some information about that. And I think, Laura, maybe historically too, I missed the last couple of meetings, but I think you've talked a little bit about the CARES Act and COVID. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
So I did want to jump into, kind of my specialty and our firm's specialty, or one of our specialties, is the R&D tax credit, because you would be surprised what companies qualify. I mean, a lot of times these manufacturing companies think, we're not developing something that's new to the world or blue sky research. It doesn't have to be. There's the definition of research is very broad in general, and they want to encourage companies like manufacturers to take advantage of the R&D tax credit. Now, this is a credit that comes directly, that you can use to offset income tax liability. So we're generally looking at companies that are profitable and they're paying income taxes. Now, if you're not profitable, the credit either carries back 1 year or forward 20 years. So hopefully, we work with a lot of startup companies too, and for initial startup companies, they don't have a lot of tax liability. They have a lot of net operating losses. Well, these credits are just carried forward until the time when they can use these credits. Okay, so but if you look at manufacturing, I mentioned earlier, almost 2/3 of the company, there's about $15 billion in federal R&D credits claimed annually, and about 62% of those are manufacturing companies. So definitely, if you're a manufacturer, you need to look at these R&D credits. Information technology, there's other industries. Construction is a big one. we work with a lot of architect and engineering firms, and believe it or not, architects can qualify because they're developing new designs of buildings and things. So don't think, you know, just because you're in a certain industry, you don't qualify, your clients don't qualify, they might. The credit, it's a 20% federal credit, 14% if you do the alternative simplified credit. There is some limitations. I always say, you know, at the end of the day, you're looking at about 6.5 cents to 7 cents on the dollar federally. And then in most states have a piggyback program for the R&D credit. So Georgia, for example, it's 10%. And so we've worked with a lot of Laura's clients and other businesses in Georgia where they're claiming not only the federal credit, but also the Georgia credit. So, you know, there's also a net, you know, limitation on the credit, but at the end of the day, when you combine, it could be 12 to 15 cents on the dollar. So one of the ways I estimate, if I just talking with a client for 5 minutes, I ask them roughly how much is your R&D spend annually. If they say $100,000, you can expect a $12,000 to $15,000 credit. You know, it's a way of back of the envelope to see what the potential benefit is. And then we can go back to any open tax years. So for federal purposes, we get 3 years. We can go back 3 years, amend tax returns if needed. So Laura's team is great on amending tax returns to claim these refund claims. You can get a refund for overpayment of tax in earlier years. And then some states are 3 to 4 year statute of limitations. So when we do a project, we look at not just a current year, but we also look at any prior years. And if it makes sense, go back and amend. I mentioned earlier, you know, these credits will carry forward up to 20 years. And I'm based out of California. It's an unlimited carry forward for the R&D credit. Obviously, we want companies to take advantage of the credit, you know, but if they can't use it this year, they can always use it in future tax years. Do you have any questions so far? I'm going to pause right here and see if there's any questions. Okay.
John, were you holding your hand up, or are you good?
No, I got a question.
Okay, go for it.
So when you get the tax credit, it's a 3 to 4 year look back depending upon the state.
Yes.
And that's only a federal tax, not a state tax.
No, so there's 2 different taxes. So most states you're going to pay, you have to pay a federal income tax. And then some states like Georgia, you pay income tax liability. So any of that liability you can use to offset with these credits. So it's 2 different jurisdictions. One's federal and then one state. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. What is the look back specific to the state of Georgia?
I'll have to double check. Maybe Laura, you know, it's either 3 or 4 years.
I think it's 3 years right now, John.
And what about the state of Kentucky?
I would have to double check for you. I know, like,
I'll make a note of that question though, John, for you, for Mark.
Yeah.
Right.
I could double check.
I have 2 manufacturing clients on the front burner right now, and you know, as things move forward, I'll be able to introduce. I mean, Mark, I spoke with you before about your services and stuff like that, but I'm working with a CFO right now I'm really close with, and that's something I'll be able to explore further with them, you know, as we discussed earlier.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, you bring up a good point, John, is we'll always jump on a complimentary call, you know, and within 15 minutes, you know, I could even go to the website, a lot of these companies, and determine whether or not there's an R&D credit, but we'll always do a complimentary call. So if you think there might be a benefit, I don't mind you, you know, quote unquote, bothering me to jump on a call and kick the tires. They can leverage off my 25 years experience in this area and see if there might be an opportunity. I can almost guarantee you that if you're a manufacturing company, probably 80% or more of them are going to have some qualified R&D activities. And I'll go through in a minute some of the expenses we can look at, because most of these manufacturers will have some of these expenses that would qualify for the credit. So it's a great, you know, segue into my next slide here. So what expenses are eligible for the R&D credit? One is salary. So any employees conducting research activities for the company or your company can qualify, and that can include direct supervision or direct support. So a lot of times we'll see, like, if there's an engineering department of a company, yeah, they pick up engineering expenses, but they don't realize the supervision of those engineers could qualify. And especially smaller manufacturing companies, they might have a flat organizational structure. So you might have high-level executives that actually directly you have R&D employees that report to them, we can pick up their salary as well, which is nice. So it's their taxable wages, W-2 Box 1 wages, and then any support individuals. So for example, if you're putting in a new manufacturing line and there's people, frontline workers they're working that equipment and running through new product or prototypes, we can pick up their time too as directly supporting the research. So there's a lot of hidden people that touch the research and development life cycle that we look at. So when we do a project, we look at all the expenses and all the people, then we shrink back to who is kind of touching the research and development activities. The nice thing about manufacturing companies is we work with all different industries, but there might be a material supply cost. So if you build a physical prototype and it's either used or consumed in your research and experimentation, we can pick it up at its cost. And it could be, a pretty substantial cost if you're building a new widget and you have to build, several first article or prototypes of that widget itself. So we can have a hefty supply cost. For example, also if you're a pharmaceutical company, you might have chemicals, and those chemicals could be a supply cost, so we can pick up. The third cost we could pick up too is a lot of times companies don't have the expertise in-house, so they have to hire an outside consultant, contractor, any non-employee conducting research activities. We get 65% of any eligible payments to them. We do need to make sure that you or your client as the taxpayer, they take on the risk of the development work, and they have the rights. So they have to have substantial rights to that product or process or software that they're developing. So some of the contracts, like if you work with like a government contractor, they can be 100-page contracts. So we have, one thing I didn't mention is we have about 85 employees in the company, and we have about a dozen tax attorneys, and they can pour through these contracts because we need to make sure that they're qualified contracts for the research credit. So that's something we can look at. So really wages, supplies, contract research expenses. If you have any clients that are software developers, cloud computing costs can qualify. I see that less with manufacturing companies, but that's really kind of the fourth cost. But these are the three main ones that we could pick up for the R&D credit. You guys have any questions about these qualified research expenses at any of your clients or your company?
Mark, quick question. Do these costs need to be incurred here in the States in order to qualify? So if you're doing research, say overseas on a product, or a portion of it is being done overseas, does that qualify, or does it all need to be done here on US soil?
Yep, great question. So it is a federal US credit. So one of the points of the R&D credit is to encourage companies to hire employees in the US and use contractors in the US. So if you have a company that is, maybe the R&D is done here, but they're manufacturing overseas, maybe China. We actually have a software development team with some developers in China, and we get a small R&D credit in the US, but any of the work that's done overseas doesn't qualify, unfortunately. The same is true with the state credit. So the work has to be done boots on the ground in Georgia to get the Georgia state credit, and then in the US to get the federal R&D credit. So it's a great question. Real quick story. So I was working with a video game developer, and they were they were using a contractor in New Jersey. And so we thought they were eligible for the federal credit because the work's done in the US, right? Well, they were subcontracting out to the Ukraine for their work. So the actual software developers were in the Ukraine. So at the 11th hour, we had to back out those expenses because we thought they were doing the work in the US, but it turned out that they were actually physically located in the Ukraine. So that's something you always have to be careful for. It's a great question. Think it's a US-based credit, US activities, and a state credit, state activities within the state itself.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Any other questions? Yes, Mike?
Yes, Mark.
I love this, yeah.
Let's say I am a developer. My product is a building. That is my product. Now let's assume that I'm going to build a building that has greater sustainability. So the R&D would be involved in the architect and the contractors to take a building level. Now, would this be a concept of being able to use as far as the ownership of the building being in the R&D business?
Yeah, so to answer your question is that could potentially qualify as an R&D credit expense. We need to look at the contract because if it's a fixed price contract with this architect or engineering firm, then the risk might be on the engineer and architect. So they might be eligible for the R&D credit, not your client. So that's what we need to be aware of. You, as the person enjoying the benefits of the R&D credit, is the one that should be taking on that risk. Go ahead. You have a follow-up?
Well, again, I'm going back to the absolute ownership of the real property, of the building. And, you know, following cost segregation, or, you know, separating the building from the land, and how many different ways that you're going to look at the different, I'll call it buckets of assets. Is there a portion in there that could be considered R&D that the owner of the building, not his contractor, the cost of the contractor, the cost of the architect are all fixed costs, but the risk is on the owner of the building, because he has no guarantee of the amount of rent that he's going to receive.
Yeah, it's not the rent. It's going to be the risk of the development expenses. So is the project successful or not? He's taking on the risk.
Okay. Well, again, just applying all this to the building versus a manufacturer's way of looking at R&D for a product.
Yeah, generally anything that's not a capitalized expense can be eligible for the credit. So if they're just buying, for example, like equipment to the building, it's a capitalized expense. That's qualified. But the other thing is, that's right for a cost segregation study, what you're talking about. Because that's where our guys will go in. Instead of the 39-year life, they can accelerate the life, the asset, to 15 years or 7.5 years or whatever. So we can certainly look at that. Bill Mark, one of my colleagues, that's his practice. And if you want, I can have him jump on a call with you. And we can talk.
Oh, thank you. No, we have some relationships with the cost seg groups. So, but again, I was just trying to think, is the beyond cost seg and going to the R&D tax credit, and could this be applicable to the year the building is built, or if the building is sold?
Yeah.
And there are improvements to the building. So back to the real property and seeing what basis that can be in, whether it be tax planning or an engineering application of equipment. So
yeah, generally if you're building you know, something that's experimental, you know, a portion new design of the building, some of those costs can qualify for the R&D credit, parcel to the cost segregation study that you're doing. So we can carve that out.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. No, thanks for your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to list out a few manufacturing examples of kind of activities that might qualify for the R&D credit. You know, again, if you're developing new or improved products or processes, it doesn't have to be brand new. It could be an improvement, incremental improvement to the existing product. Designing new equipment, fixtures, or tooling. First article prototypes. You know, a lot of times you don't know how to manufacture a new product, so you run through first articles, first trial runs. Some of that expenses can qualify. Establishing new processes for regulatory requirements. So it doesn't matter why you're doing that new or improvement to a process. So regulatory requirements can definitely qualify. A new automated process. So you see a lot of companies, they have manual labor and they want to automate it. So they'll put in new automation equipment, and there's a lot of design and engineering involved with that new equipment. The equipment itself probably doesn't qualify, but all the design, engineering, and time of the people testing that out could certainly qualify. Lean manufacturing initiatives, quality assurance activities, improving production yield. So, you know, you're you know, 1,000 widgets a day, you want to produce 1,500 widgets a day. You know, increasing that yield involves a lot of experimentation, new materials, things like that. So again, it's not an exhaustive list. It's just a few things that might be qualified. Again, if there's a manufacturing company, they should definitely be looking at this R&D credit as a potential tax savings. I did, if you don't have any questions with R&D credit, I just wanted to go in to touch on a few Georgia-specific opportunities. There's a Georgia jobs tax credit. I think, Laura, your firm historically has helped out your clients with some of these tax incentives, but I just wanted to mention it, that you can reach out to Laura or my firm to help with this. And really the jobs tax credit is want to incentivize companies to hire more employees in Georgia. So there's something called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, which is a federal program, and Georgia has its own program to incentivize companies to hire employees in certain areas. So there's there's 40 least developed counties, military zones, opportunity zones. And so they want to encourage companies in these zones to hire employees in that area. So, but you have to be certain kind of business. So manufacturing, that's perfect for our discussion purposes today. Warehouse, distribution, processing, telecommunications companies, broadcast and tourism, R&D facilities, or biomedical manufacturing. So it's very specific to certain businesses located in certain counties. You can get a credit for every new hire, anywhere from $750 to $4,000, depending on that. And I have some handouts too, Laura, I can send it to the group if that's helpful too, that explains it a little bit more.
Great. Yeah, because I know we're getting a little bit closer on time for wrap up and going over a few other things today. So would love to get that from you.
Sorry, there was a lot of questions and I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're good. It's a hot topic today. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we were going to get them some information as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
And my last slide is just about the Georgia retraining credit. So this is if you're training new employees it's a program that has to be approved by the technical college system of Georgia. And eligible costs there could be salaries, employee wages, training materials, and travel expense. I know right now there's not a lot of travel expenses. And that credit for training new employees to kind of enhance their existing skills on new equipment, technology, operating systems can be anywhere from $500 to $1,250. Again, I have handouts on that. If you have any questions, I do appreciate questions that you guys had earlier. If we can't address any questions today, if something comes up, on Monday, you can always reach out to me. And I think that's all I had, Laura.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Mark. I know it's a lot of information to cover in there. And like I said, we had some great questions from the group. So we will send out that information. And if you have any follow-ups, certainly reach out to Mark and let him know. So what I'd like to do next is I'd like to have Jason share some upcoming exciting information and then just check in with everybody, see what's going on and if there's anything that any of us can do today for each other while we're here on the call.
All right, great, Laura. Mark, again, thank you for sharing that information. I'm pretty excited about learning about ways that we can continue to save money. I know manufacturers are always trying to be more efficient, and there are a couple things that I didn't know about on the lean operations and training and that sort of thing that I think will be able to help several of our members. So I'll make sure that we make those connections. That's what this is all about. And as you guys know, we've got as the world changes, it used to be as the world turns. It's just as it changes minute by minute right now. We're learning some new tools and figuring out ways that we can help support the manufacturing community. I mean, our core, the basis of what we do is to help support and grow manufacturing in the state of Georgia. We love our folks that are non-manufacturers too. I mean, you got a room full of folks here with us today that are maybe not makers, but without y'all's support, the manufacturers wouldn't be able to do what they do. So we want to make sure that we make those right connections. We value your membership and engagement and participation in what we're doing. And we have, as you know, been very limited on the ability to go out and do plant tours and live face-to-face networking. Hopefully that'll be coming back soon. I really thought this thing was going to be over back in June, July, but the world did not get my memo. So we gotta tighten that up a little bit, and maybe the second go around I'm gonna send one out for September. We need it to be all cleared up by September, October. But they didn't get the hint the first time. But that being said, it's been difficult to do business the way that we've been doing it, but we're still committed. The mission has not changed. The tools in the vehicle has, right? We're here to support the manufacturing community in any way that we can. This is a simple way that we've been able to do that. And keeping the networking alive and keeping the community, in conversation. One of the other pieces that we found is a lot of companies. I mean, we had the summit scheduled. Summit, we were expecting to have 1,000 people September 15th at the Cobb Galleria, and that a couple months or so ago we had to change that plan. So we've been trying to find new tools and ways that we can really provide for the need to make the right connections and get the right information out. We rolled out a member spotlight. It's a digital marketing program that we just, we sampled it about a month ago to try to get some of the bugs worked out. We just did a great call. I think a couple of you guys were on the call that we did on Wednesday with intelligent energy optimizers. That was a neat format, and we're going to be able to do that. We're actually going to do one for a manufacturer. We have the availability to do one for a manufacturer and one for a support company each week. That's kind of how the package is put together. We'll do the interview. Basically, it's a 40, 30, 45-minute Zoom interview to really dig in to get to know the person a little bit better and understand more about the companies, find out who they serve, how they can impact the manufacturing space. And then we've launched a podcast series and Manufacturing News Network, and it's available on Stitcher. It's available. It will soon be on Apple Podcast. There's several that we've already got it submitted through, and it's already playing on. But it'll be available through Pandora and Apple soon. We're going to wait till the show gets live before we do a big promotion on it. But we've already got a couple episodes that are recorded. If you want to dig in, you can actually, I'll send you a link in the show notes so you can take a look and see what the showcase looks like. But Bo Groover, I'm really, really excited with Bo Groover from Effective Syndicate. He's been one of our longtime supporters, sponsors, and engaged in the community. He saw what we were doing, and he jumped right on. He wanted to be a part of this, to be able to, and he's using this as a basically a in-depth overview of his company when he's working with clients, to be able to manage a lot of the Q&A. And this will allow the prospects to take a look, see if it's a fit. And you guys know as well as I do, it's a whole lot better to get a clear, clean no, this is not a fit, rather than playing through a bunch of conversations without that clarity. And that's the tool that he'll be using to do that. But that comes with some pretty significant, social media promotions and all that. But so we're going to be doing a member spotlight. That's absolutely free. It's a different format. So this is a web meeting with Zoom, and a webinar, you only have the presenters that are available. You can sit in on, listen to it. I'd encourage you to make plans at 9:00 on Thursday to listen to Bo's session. And we keep the Q&A section open, so you can fire off questions, and we'll try to answer those as they come in. So it's a live and interactive piece as well. So I encourage you to do that piece. And then the other piece that we've been working on, and some of you guys are very familiar, heard a little bit more about it, is we've been working on a project. It's Manufacturing Success in Georgia. It's a hardcover book that we've been putting together. It is a coffee table book, again, oversized, illustrated history of Georgia's manufacturing community, and I'm really stoked about it. We're about 95% done on the contents. We got those pieces put together, but we do have we've had several companies that wanted to be part of the book. So we've got a history profile for companies that we have included in the book as well. Some companies that you might be familiar with, like Gulfstream and Kia, both of them had they said they wanted to be a part of this and help support this worthy mission to get the history shared with Georgia's manufacturing community. And so they both have like 6-page profiles, company profiles on that. And then Daniel Defense and Southwire are also engaged in that. But we've got a couple spots open. If you're interested in getting and sharing your company profile and your history along with these, there's never been an opportunity that we've had that'll guarantee that your company and your company profile will be seen along with the leaders and handed to the leaders of these top major corporations. Of course, we've been doing a directory. We've done 7 editions of the directory, but this is a keepsake. This is something that these execs are going to keep on their desk and probably share around. I mean, I think their engagement and commitment is serious. And so these are going to be great opportunities, again, to share your company history. But we've got a really tight timeline on this. We're about to have to shut that down, and we've only got about 2 spots that are left open as an option. So if you're interested in that, call me. I'll give you some details. All the information on the book itself can be found at Manufacturing Success in Georgia. Manufacturing Success in Georgia. That's the website. It's got all the details, and we're really excited about the book. It'll be coming out probably October, September, depending on how fast we can get it through production. But the other piece that I wanted to share with you, as you guys know, I'm an avid reader. I'm actually a really avid listener. I listen a lot because I read a little slow, and I used to spend a lot of time in the car. But I found that Audible is my friend. But once I listen to something and kind of get the feel for it, I go out and buy the book and then go back and take the notes and highlight and do all that stuff. But this is a great book I'm going to recommend for you guys. This is the recommendation for the month is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Again, I'll include a link to this book directly to Amazon through the show notes. That'll be included. But I've had this book for a couple of years sitting over in my bookcase. And a great friend of mine, Nathan McGill, is working with me, helping me to put the pieces together to get this podcast thing nailed down. And he said he recommended it. We talked through it, and man, this thing has been it's a great read. It helps you be very concise, and the way people communicate and remember things is through a story. We've been telling stories for years to pass on, our information for generations, right? And stories I tend to be a little long-winded already, so people that know me know that's part of the reason it sat over in the bookshelf. I was like, man, I don't need to extend anything that I say, right? I need to be more concise. But this allows you to be able to be more concise and effective with your communication as you reach out to your customers and give them something that they can latch onto. Again, this is really, really, really good stuff. I'd encourage you to take a look at that. So those are the kind of the big pieces that I wanted to share with you. Again, the podcast, it'll be coming out soon. You'll get all the details on that. You'll see lots of information on that. And then the member spotlight programs, those are going to be, we're going to take the audio track out of that, push that through the podcast series, and then we're going to hammer that through social media. So there's some great opportunities. We're going more digital than ever, way more digital than I ever wanted to, but that's just, that's the hand we're dealt. We're going to play it, right? But with that, I wanted to see if you guys had any questions about any of the stuff that I've gone over. Going once, going twice. All right. And so what I always love to do is, as you guys know, we need your feedback on how best to serve you. And so over in the chat section, I want you to tell us if this time that we've got allocated for this networking, the first Friday of each month from 11:30 to 12:30, if this is a good time and good fit for you, just go over to the chat box and just type yes. If you don't want this, or you would be open to change it, if you think a different time would be better for you, if you just put open, just either yes, I love it, or open, you're willing to, or interested in maybe considering a different time. So if you would just do that, take just a minute to do that. Yes or open. Everybody, if you would kind of give me that piece. All right. I'm counting them up. 1, 2, 3. We're good. Okay. Looks like we got most everybody in there. And if you didn't, you got time for just one more second. All right. And then the other piece I wanted to always do, and I'm going to save the close for Miss Laura, but we talked about a bunch of stuff, covered a lot of information, and with every event that we do, I always like to ask, what was your favorite part about today? So really, really quick, Mike McShane, what is your favorite part about today? What you plugged into today?
Well, it's great to understand consulting services of this group. I realize that you do not have a true manufacturer on the table today, but since this is all the industry, and I mean that as far as our services that we're involved with, is that it's very good. And I do very much support and appreciate what you're doing. And it's amazing if you read about the and opportunities in commercial real estate. It's often said that industrial is one that's the sweetheart right now. Well, a big part of that are the 1 million square foot plus warehouses being built.
Yep.
We count them on one hand. And they aren't built for manufacturing. They're built on bringing goods from overseas into the United States. So,
Yep.
we've got very people that are very worried about long-term invested in those because a lot of them are going to go dark.
Yep.
So
Yep. That's part of
not trying to be negative, but
yeah.
let's make stuff, guys. Let's make stuff.
I'm all about that. Well, I appreciate that, Mike. John, what's your favorite part about today?
The refresher course on CTI services.
Sweet.
Yeah, I spoke to Mark a while ago, and it was good to get the reminder, sort of bring it back to the surface. Got a handful of clients right now that I'm pretty sure would be able to take advantage of it if they're not already.
Okay.
Considering that they haven't done anything in the utility space, as far as what I do, as something as niche as what CTI offers, they probably haven't done that either. So,
yep. Cool.
It's good. A little reminder piece, and glad to hear it.
All right. Well, that sounds cool. Okay. Before I go any further, everybody look this way. Everybody look this way. This way. Smile. Smile with your face. Wave. Everybody wave. Hold your hand up like this, like that. Smile. Smile. Wave. Henry, I know you're smiling and waving. All right, cool. All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do with that in a minute. Most of you probably already know. All right, Mr. Mark Stuckey, what was your favorite part about today?
Well, it's always fascinating to hear the world. Of course, it's over my head, but it's always good to think and have the camaraderie of everybody being together today.
Cool. I'm glad you're on the line with us. Thanks, Mark. All right, Mr. Rob, what was your favorite part about today?
I think meeting everyone for the first time. I think I've only been on about 3 or 4 of these sessions, so it's good to meet everyone. And also, Jason, just want to thank you for the shout out this week with our company.
Sure.
I think I got more LinkedIn requests in one day than I have in many years. So certainly the word goes out pretty quick over LinkedIn. So I appreciate the shout out.
Perfect. We love to share the love, man. I mean, you got good stuff to talk about. We're going to share it, because we need all of that we can get, every one of us. So again, congratulations, Rob. Thanks. All right, Mr. Doug, what's going on, brother? What's your favorite part about today?
Well, I enjoyed, besides the fact to get the chance to get with everybody and find out more about them. Mark's presentation reminded me of some of the opportunities that companies can utilize when they're availing my services. It can help. They can get tax incentives for the fact that I'm helping train their employees or improving their processes and such. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's
another arrow in the quiver, right?
Absolutely. Nothing like a quote that gives you some money back.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff, Doug. Appreciate that. All right, Mr. Henry Levine, we're going to try to listen to you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, we can barely hear you, but yeah, tell us your favorite part.
Well, I want to say a shout out to Laura. She runs a heck of a meeting, and the folks that aren't here are missing a good session. Mark, you hit 100 on that. Thank you so much. And everybody else, nice to see your shining faces. And I'm sorry I'm not showing you mine.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Henry. Appreciate that. All right, Mark. Again, dude, you did a great job. Appreciate you sharing all the information. What was your favorite part about today?
Yeah, one of the things I really liked was the private chat group. There was several that reached out to me, and believe it or not, it works out pretty well. Even though we're not in person, there's some, people asking me about, provisors group, about their clients' opportunities, and it's kind of works, and it works pretty well. So I like that. Yeah.
Sweet. I love it. So what we're going to do, everybody, if you want to hop over on chat real quick, and the 3 dots beside down at the bottom, there's 3 little dots that say more. If you click on that and you hit save chat, that'll save that whole chat feed for you. And it's got everybody's contact information. All the information's right there. You just click save chat. It saves it out as a text file, and you'll have a record of it. The picture I took a minute ago, I'm going to attach it to. We're going to take this video and we'll embed it on a page as a recap of the call today, so you can go back to it, or if you like. But also, you've got a record of everybody's contact information through this chat piece. So we're going to send that photo out, give a little social media love. If I believe I'm connected to everybody. If I'm not connected to you on LinkedIn, make sure you connect to me pretty quick, because I'll tag you in the post and you'll get some digital love from that as well. So cool. All right. And I'm going to turn this over to the lady of the hour, Miss Laura Matajewski. Wrap this thing up for us, girl.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's funny, you know, today I think we've all been starting to feel some hiccups in the internet as we're all gearing ourselves back in. I just got emails from Russ Dunlap, who wasn't able to make it in today, and a couple others saying, dang it, my internet wasn't working. So I'm looking forward to an even heartier group next time around. It's like I said, it's so good to see everybody's faces. And this group is all about networking and bringing value to the manufacturing community and to each of us. So do, as Jason said, make sure you got your chat. Reach out to any of us. Please, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, please go ahead and connect as well too. And more than happy to help make connections and opportunities happen for you as we can. This is a very welcome and opening group, and we just all have a same purpose and mission, which is supporting GMA and supporting the manufacturing community here in our fine state of Georgia. So with that said, I look forward to seeing everybody next month. And certainly I'll be touching base with each of you individually to see if there's any other feedback that you'd like to share, so that we can take that into advisement and make sure that we continue to make this session and this group as productive and informative as possible.
Fantastic, Laura. Fantastic job. It's been another great day at GMA. We'll see you guys next call, and make sure you register for Thursday for next Thursday, and then we'll have this set up on schedule in just a little bit as well, so that you can plug into that. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye-bye.